Hello and welcome! If you're here, it probably means you're thinking about trying out Splatoon. Maybe you've never heard of it, maybe you've heard of it but don't really know what it is. Well, if that's the case, you're in the right place. Think of a game that's part shooter, part art project, and all about squids that are also kids. If you're confused, don't worry, I'm here to break it all down. By the end of this video, you'll have a general understanding of what Splatoon is, how to play, and you'll know why Splatoon is one of the freshest series in gaming today. A lot of people worry that Splatoon 3 is too far into the series to jump in, but that's not true at all. Splatoon first came out in 2015 on the Wii U. Yeah, that console that kinda flopped like a fish out of water. But Splatoon was the bright spot. Then Splatoon 2 came out in 2017 on the Nintendo Switch, and it was a big hit. Many people never even played the first game. And then Splatoon 3 came out in 2022, also on the Switch, but now plays on the Switch 2 as well. Even though some of the new content may be waning, that doesn't mean there aren't a ton of things to discover and explore that you can only experience when you play the game for yourself. Now, for the part you've probably been waiting for, what is Splatoon? How does it work? How do you play? Let's begin on the very first screen you'll see when you boot up the game for the first time. This is an Inkling, a human squid being with the ability to produce ink and transforms between its humanoid and squid-like forms. There are also octolings, which are much the same. However, they are more like octopi than squids. Who would have thought? You get to select a hairstyle, your Inkling or octoling's eye color, skin color, and you get to make them completely your own. Plus, you get to give a hairstyle to your little buddy. More on him later though. Whether you design your character around yourself or invent someone completely new, showing off your own character is so much fun, especially as you discover the world of Splatoon with them, through the single player and online multiplayer experiences. Anyways, on to the next thing. How do you play? The controls can definitely be a little difficult to understand at first. However, once you get them down, I assure you they will become like second nature. In case you haven't completed the tutorial or haven't learned the controls yet, here's a refresher of the basic controls. The left joystick is to move, the right joystick or the controller's gyroscope is for the camera, B is to jump, holding ZL is for transforming into a squid or octopus, ZR is for firing your main weapon, R is for using your sub-weapon, X is for opening and closing the map, and pressing in the left stick is for activating your special weapon. So you heard all those controls, and it's probably a lot, but you're also probably wondering, what is a main, sub, and special weapon? Well, this is your main weapon, the one that you'll primarily use throughout the battle. The main weapon is what you do most of your inking and splatting with. You'll start off with a weapon called the Splattershot Jr. That's given to you as you're completing the tutorial. And that's this right here that I'm using. For other weapons and how to use them, I'll have another video up for that soon, so don't worry. Sub-weapons are your secondary weapon, mostly things that dismantle the enemy, such as a stereotypical bomb or a toxic mist that the enemy gets slowed down in. There are also a lot of sub-weapons that complement the main weapons they're attached to. The Splattershot Jr. has Splat bombs, for example, a powerful explosive tool when used in the right hands. And finally, we have special weapons, the tertiary and biggest weapon of them all. In order to even use one of these things, you have to fill up the special gauge by inking turf. Once you have filled the gauge, it will begin to glow, your Inkling or Octoling's hair will also glow, and you'll be ready to fire. Specials range from huge ink bazookas, to storm clouds that rain ink, to team boosting drink coolers, and more. The Splattershot Jr. comes with one called the Big Bubbler, a massive protective bubble that blocks enemy fire. Enemies can walk inside though, so you have to be careful, but it's still a great tool for holding ground. There's a lot to go over with these weapons, so subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want to see more on them in the near future. So how do we get to battling? You know, that's like kind of the main draw of the series. Well, once you make it to the streets of Splatsville, you'll get a little tour of the city. You'll see the shops, among a few other things, and the main attraction, the lobby tower, and where you can go for battles. Once you make your way up the steps and into the tower, you'll get a small tour of the lobby. You can then either walk into the battle kettle or simply press L to access the match menu. Within this menu, you'll be able to select Turf War. I'll go over the rules in this video. However, if you'd like to view the rules for yourself, simply just press the minus button while hovering over the Turf War select screen. So what's a battle like? Well, before we get into that, I have some very important mechanics I'd like you to know. First, you can swim faster than you can run, so it's very useful to transform into squid or octopus form and travel through your ink. Your ink tank is also a very important thing to keep an eye on throughout any battle. You can see it on your back. It will run out eventually, and you won't be able to shoot or use any sub-weapons, but it will refill automatically over time so long as you aren't using it. However, the fastest way to make it refill is by submerging in your ink. It's a very noticeable difference. There's also a line somewhere on there. This is your sub-weapon line. It's different for every sub-weapon, but it marks the amount of ink that you need to use your sub. Once you have enough ink to use the sub, you'll hear a little beep, and if you're looking at your ink tank in humanoid form, you'll see a red light turn on. The red light is just an indicator that you have enough ink for your sub. You can also use your special weapon to instantly completely refill your ink tank, so it might be useful in a pinch. Another thing is that you can also sort of communicate with your teammates using the D-pad. Press down on it to tell your teammates "Booyah" to signify that one of them did a good job or just to celebrate the moment. You can also press up on it to say "this way," which can be very useful in telling your teammates to look or head your way. If you get splatted, "this way" will turn into "ouch" and can be super useful too, as saying "ouch" can tell your teammates that A, you got splatted, but also that maybe there's an enemy near you where you got splatted. So even though it's limited, it can be super useful. Now, back to the battles. Firstly, there are several different modes, but for the purpose of this video, I will only cover the first mode you're able to play, Turf War. So you jump into your first game of Turf War. What do? First, you'll see a top-down view of whatever map you've spawned in on. And don't worry, I'll have a video on maps and an in-depth analysis and overview on them in the future as well. You'll then see your character in something called a spawn drone, with a landing spot marked by an arrow that you can move around until the match starts. When the word "Go" comes on the screen, you'll be launched out of your drone towards the arrow. You'll then be able to move around, shoot, and most importantly, ink the ground. As you start your first game, your goal is going to be to cover the most ground with ink in a 4v4 battle. You'll have 3 minutes to ink as much as you can. With a Splattershot Junior, your primary goal is going to be to cover the ground, not focus on getting splats. However, with the Splattershot Junior, you might recall that you have splat bombs. They are known as a lethal bomb type sub-weapon, and since the Splattershot Junior kinda lacks in splatting power, your focus should be not only on inking, but tossing as many splat bombs at the opponents as possible. And as you might recall, your special with the Splattershot Junior is the Big Bubbler. You'll want to use this in typically a contested space to help your teammates get in or keep yourself from getting splatted. Now, a splat is what you call it when you shoot someone enough to make them burst into a small explosion of your color of ink. If you splat someone or get splatted, you'll notice a little squid or octopus shaped ghost looking thing float up, and that will float back to the splatted individual spawn drone, where the inkling or octoling's body will be regenerated and then be able to be launched back into the map with the ZR button to splat or be splatted again. You aren't given any number of lives, at least not in online battles. Your spawn drone will continue to revive you for the rest of the battle anytime you get splatted. One super important thing is that you can press X to open your map and close it, but while it's open you'll be able to see your teammates on it. You can actually use your cursor to select one of these teammates with the A button and subsequently super jump to them. It can be super useful, especially if you've just been splatted. If you don't want to launch out of the spawn drone and have to swim all the way back to the fight, well, just super jump straight from the drone to one of your teammates. Now, some of the things that are really important to remember for your first Turf War is that first, only the ground is counted at the end of the game. However, you can swim up walls, so inking them can be useful, but it shouldn't be the primary focus. Another thing is that you don't need to perfectly ink the ground. If there are a few bare spots or small splashes of enemy ink, you don't need to make inking them over a priority. Focus on the big areas of enemy ink or uninked space. An additional note is water. Submerging in water as an inkling is like submerging your body in hydrochloric acid. Not exactly the best idea. If you do happen to fall or jump into water, you will splat yourself and have to be regenerated again. And one more note is out of bounds. Typically, each battle stage has some way to fall off, and not necessarily into water. But if you do go out of bounds on a stage, you'll find yourself poofing into a cloud of inky smoke. And the same thing applies here as it did with water. Back to the spawner drone for you. At the end of the battle, the cats Judd and Little Judd will show who won the battle. You'll then be transported back into the lobby, where you can then select if you want to keep going, change gear and keep going, or quit. If you choose to hit keep going, then you'll be able to shoot around in the lobby and practice with the dummies until the next battle starts. If you hit stop, then you'll be just in the lobby and there won't be a battle that's matching in the background. However, before you're free, you'll definitely notice the results screen. Reading this might look like a lot at first, but I promise it's really simple. First, you'll see the names of the players in the battle, and each name will have some numbers next to it. The numbers going from left to right are firstly the amount of P you inked, which are units of measurement, similar to square yards or meters. Next is the number of splats you've gotten throughout the battle, then the number of times you've gotten splatted, and the number of specials you used in the battle. It's a great way to review the battle and get a loose idea of how you, your teammates, and your opponents did. And that's your introduction to Splatoon. From where it started, to creating characters, to weapons, and your very first turf war. It's chaotic, but really fun. In the next video, I'll be covering the cities and the lobby, where everything is, and then we'll be going up from there. If you have any questions or anything you'd like me to cover in one of the next few episodes of the series, or you just want to let me know how I did, please comment below. And if this video series helps you get into the series or helps you become a better player, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want updates on the more advanced strategies and to learn more about the series as a whole. Until next time!